Hello, I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Joining us today is Customs Commissioner Sonny Sevilla. Sevilla was an investment banker and finance undersecretary before he was appointed by the president in December. He joins us today to talk about dealing with the Bureau's negative image and the changes he is planning to implement. He will also talk about alleged top rice smuggler David Bangayan, or David Tan, who admitted using farmers' cooperatives to import rice. The scheme, which senators say is illegal, involves financiers and brokers using the rice importation permits of farmers' cooperatives for a fee. So, good day to you, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Sir, it's been almost 2 months since you took the helm.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience so far.
It's the biggest challenge I've ever taken on in my life. I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Well, it's definitely one of the most difficult tasks in government.
It's there's a lot of things to do. It's not, I think, apart from the image, I think the negative image of the Bureau is the product of quite a few things. Circumstances and phenomena which are quite deeply rooted,
Okay.
Corruption, inefficiencies and all that. And I see my role as really to try and get to the heart of why these things have been able to happen or occur for such a long time and change them structurally, because although, of course, there's a need to go after individual wrongdoers, both inside and outside of the agency, if we really don't change the way the system works, assuming you catch all the bad guys, there'll be new people to take their place the next day.
Right.
And if that were all we were able to do, then I would say that I wouldn't have done my job properly.
Okay, you mentioned inefficiencies, corruption. Do you think these are the fundamental problems with the agency?
That would be the easy answer, but I think we need to dig deeper than that and look at how the whole importation process happens. Okay? What are the different stages at which corruption can happen and inefficiency can happen, and look at it really as an entire process. Rather, I mean, yes, there is corruption, and yes, there is inefficiency, but you don't just snap your fingers and say we're getting rid of corruption or we're getting rid of inefficiency. No. I said on my very first day that customs reform is going to succeed or fail, not based on a grand vision, not based on purely integrity, but it's really going to succeed or fail based on how we're able to execute on lots of very detailed things rather than one big overarching idea. And I definitely feel even more so that that's the case today.
Okay, and you said that part of what you've been doing in this past 7 weeks is looking at how this has been sustained for so long.
Yes.
What have you learned so far?
Quite a few things.
Okay.
Definitely let me start with technology, because I think that technology is going to have a major role in our success or failure.
You did mention that when you first
sorry if this is all going to sound very boring, but the technology platform of the Bureau of Customs is very firmly in the 20th century rather than the 21st.
So basically, you barely use technology.
No, I wouldn't say that. Okay, I would say that we use technology. I mean, importers can lodge their import entries online. In fact, in most cases, they do. Okay, but then there's still quite a large subset of transactions which aren't done online. Okay, now because of all the stuff that's done online, we generate huge amounts of data on what's being imported, what the valuations are, and all of that, what the duties and taxes payable on those imports are. But nobody's really mined that data. Nobody's really analyzed that data to tell us, okay, are people paying the right taxes? Are people valuing their imports properly? Okay, so there's large parts of the whole. There's as I mentioned earlier, there's significant categories of imports which aren't tracked in our IT platform. Okay, and there's significant movements of goods after they're imported, which theoretically we are supposed to be able to track, but which our electronic system doesn't.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of fixing up to do.
So part of the problem is lack of information or insights into.
The information is theoretically there, but we generate huge amounts of paper. As far as I mean, look, we have roughly about 100,000 transactions every month, import transactions.
Okay, 100,000.
And each of those import transactions involves about 50 pieces of information. Okay. Now, when data on 15 out of those 100,000 transactions per month is paper-based, as far as I'm concerned, it makes it quite difficult to monitor and to know what's really going on. So a large part of what we plan to do is bring move all of that onto an electronic platform so that we can actually monitor it, so that we actually know what's going on. Now, for the stuff that is already in the electronic platform, we'd like to use the data that we're able to generate to do some analysis and to tell us, okay, what are we collecting the right amount given the kinds and amounts of imports we're getting? We took a major step in earlier this month. Okay, we put every single import transaction from December online.
Oh, great.
We're going to do that every month going forward.
Okay.
I'm getting prepared to do it for next week, for January. Okay, the reason we're doing this is, number one, we have nothing to hide, and we want to be very clear to the public about that. We want the public to see exactly what's happening.
Okay, so that can be accessible.
It is accessible today already.
Okay.
It's been accessible for the last 3 weeks.
Great.
Okay, and really, this is also our way of getting the public to help us, because particularly, industry groups, people who are suffering from smuggling. Okay, they can analyze our data and they can tell us what we should be looking for, because with that volume of transactions, and like I said, without our own system of analytics, we're going to build it, but we don't have it today. Okay, we need all the help we can get.
So do you think that this monitoring problem, or the lack of it as of now, is that part of the reason for the revenue shortfalls?
I would say that's part of the reason for the revenue shortfalls, yes. But more specifically, it's part of the reason why I think we haven't been able to react to revenue shortfalls in the past, because nobody's been actually sort of analyzing that data and looking at it really carefully to say, okay, is this the right amount of oil? Is this the right amount of tobacco? Okay, are steel, plastic resins, rice, all of this stuff, okay, are the volumes that are coming in realistic? Are the prices at which these things are being declared correct? Okay, I mean, we're starting to look at that now, and we are discovering things. Okay.
How interesting that it hasn't been thought about earlier.
I haven't been around for that long, so I can't point as to why nobody's done this before. There certainly doesn't seem to have been an infrastructure to look at this before. I'm sure there have been individual people who've looked at little pieces of the data, but on a systematic bureau-wide basis, I just haven't seen it.
And with the scale of information, I guess it really is a challenge.
Except that it's there, and information technology allows us to use that.
Right.
I mean, look, the system isn't perfect. Like I said, there's quite a bit of information that we're not capturing. But the information that we already have there definitely can be used. Yeah.
Right. So what else do you think are the reasons for revenue shortfalls?
Well, look, simple math. No? Revenue shortfalls are a result of not collecting enough taxes. Now, sorry, I just realized that's actually exactly the same thing. But there's a number of ways. There's a number of ways or a number of reasons for revenue shortfalls. Okay, number one, people could be undervaluing imports that they're making. Number two, people could be underdeclaring the quantity of what they're importing. People could be outright lying, saying that they're importing A, but what they're really doing is importing B. Okay, and then there's also just outright smuggling, where people bring in imports without us ever finding out. Okay, so I mean, those are the ways that smuggling takes place, and every single case of smuggling affects our revenues.
And of course, the question is, how are we dealing with this problem?
In many ways, because because smuggling takes place in many forms, okay, and there are many various techniques. I think we have to look at it from several dimensions at the same time. The way I like to describe it is, we have a leaky bucket. It's like a plastic bag with lots of holes that's filled with water. Okay, so water is coming out in all these different directions.
All the time.
Now, you can plug one or two holes, but if you don't have a complete understanding of where all those holes are, the water is just going to flow somewhere else.
Right.
Okay. Now, let me be more specific. Okay. I talked earlier about information technology and what we're doing with that. What we're really targeting there is looking at every single major category of import products, looking at the range of prices for those products that are being declared, okay, comparing them, okay, comparing them over time, comparing them with third-party sources to see, are these values realistic? Okay. We're finding out, look, that's not something that we can finish overnight, but already with a couple of products that we've looked at, we've found, you know, great sort of variances, you know, between individual products. And so, of course, we're going to look on the low end and see, okay, are these guys, you know, are these values realistic? Are we getting the right amounts here? Okay. And we intend to do that for all the major categories of products that come in. Okay. Now, once we've got that, and once we're able to improve our collections based on that, then my expectation, okay, is that you know, if I'm a smuggler and I used to just undervalue, and now that route's not open to me, okay, then I'm just going to outright misdeclare. I'll either say I'm bringing in 5,000 tons when I'm really bringing in 10,000 tons. Okay. Or I'll say that I'm bringing in a, you know, type of call it scrap metal when I'm actually bringing in semi-finished product. Okay. Now that's something which we're going to have to address. That can't be addressed on paper. No IT is going to be able to do that.
Correct.
So we need to become more sophisticated in risk management, in identifying which containers to actually X-ray, which containers to actually open and examine. Okay.
Just speaking to you, it seems, I mean, the problem is so big. You know, that's only one situation. Another, obviously, that is gaining interest is this connivance with smugglers and collection officers. You know, how do you manage that specific problem?
Again, connivance between smugglers and customs employees,
collectors,
okay, takes place exactly, I mean, through all those forms of smuggling that I just described earlier. Now, if we find, for instance, okay, that importer A, importer B, importer C has systematically undervalued, we know exactly who the guys on our side signed off on those.
Great.
Okay, so the idea here is that we need to establish. Look. The bad guys, the smugglers, can't get away with what they do without interacting with somebody inside our organization who didn't help them out, and we need to establish accountability there. Okay. So on the valuation side, we can certainly check on every transaction who signed off. Okay. On the examination side, that's a lot more difficult because the issue becomes, okay, you didn't search container X, okay? But we've got thousands of containers arriving in the country every day. We can't search every single one, right? Now, the way, now, one of my goals, precisely why I want our IT system to cover every single transaction, is so that at the end of every day or every week or every month, we can actually search all this stuff. We can actually look through and find out, okay, do we have problems here? There's ways we can do that, but not if your IT system doesn't capture everything.
Right. So is that actually one of the things you mentioned when you were still OIC was that you wanted to maximize the use of technology, minimize human intervention, improve quality, timelines, movement.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the progress of that so far? Obviously, it's only been
not
7
going to be.
months.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Yes.
Okay. I mentioned in a hearing at the Senate yesterday where several versions of the amendments to the Tariff and Customs Code of the Philippines are being discussed. Okay. Right now, okay. I'm not a lawyer, but lawyers tell me this. Okay. If you're an importer, okay, and you want to do the paperwork for your transaction, okay, you need to do it both electronically and do certain parts of it with actual paper. Okay. Okay. Now there are proposed amendments which would require the Bureau of Customs to accept either paper or electronic filing. I want to go further than that. I'd like to have the power to mandate that we accept only electronic filing and have all documents be in electronic form. Because right now what's happening is some documents are electronic and some documents are paper. Okay? The moment you have paper, okay, then you need to actually come to our office. Then you need to actually deal with the human being. Okay? And it becomes much more difficult. to minimize that human intervention. A colleague, second or third week on the job, a colleague who had gone for training in Japan told me that she actually saw the equivalent of what we call our formal entry division in Manila. No? If you come to our office, you see it's a big room, okay, and there's actual people there sitting at glass windows with brokers or importers on the other side. Okay. In fact, they used to actually come inside the office.
Okay.
In Japan, I was told, okay, there is zero human contact.
Wow.
Because everything is done electronically. I don't see any reason why we can't do that.
Correct.
I mean, we can't do that overnight because I think we need to give our importers and brokers some time to adjust to that. But certainly that's something that we should be moving towards.
Great, and obviously that's one of your big initiatives in curbing corruption as well. And
Yes. Well, see, to me, you increase efficiency, you curb corruption because it becomes, when everything is like an assembly line, okay,
it's harder.
Then it's harder to game the system, particularly since you need good monitoring to be able to do that, okay. But I firmly believe that we should make it as close to an assembly line as possible, okay. Take the exceptions out in a separate room and deal with them separately so that they don't bother the rest of the assembly line, and then just have good monitoring. Okay.
And clearly the technology is there because other countries are using it.
The technology exists.
Okay.
We just need to design our own systems, make in a way that conforms to our reality. That's underway.
Okay.
We're not starting from scratch here. We do have some stuff that we can build on. There's certainly no need to reinvent the wheel either.
And as you mentioned, this cannot happen overnight, but there are, I think, specific immediate concerns that I think could be dealt with. For instance, Commissioner Rufy Biazon, or former commissioner, had said the agency was hopeless in terms of cleansing it. I remember that quote specifically as well. Do you agree that it's probably better to abolish and create a totally new system with new employees, or what are your thoughts on this?
No, I'm not in a position to make a statement like that at this point.
Okay.
I mean, I've only been around for 2 months. Okay. Now, what's interesting? Okay. I mean, you could draw a line, okay, between October 2013, before and after.
Okay.
Because many of the people on my current team started working at the Bureau around October last year. Okay.
Right.
Now, what would you see before and after that line? Okay. Prior to that line, revenues were growing, collections were growing at roughly 5% per year from January to October 2013. If you're looking at November to December, they were up 19%. Okay, over the previous year. In January year to date, we're up about 21%.
So just from those changes?
Just from those changes, yes. We moved people around, and we were much more aggressive in terms of anti-smuggling efforts. Okay, now we're up 21% in the first few weeks of January. Now that's not good enough. Okay. I mean, we still have quite a bit to go, quite a way to go. But it's an encouraging trend. It's an encouraging trend, but it sort of underlines the fact that we've got to work a lot harder.
Right. And that's
so far so good, but we need to implement more changes that will generate sustainable increases in revenue. The valuation stuff that I was talking about, we're going to have some stuff ready for our own frontliners to use. I mean, we talked about corruption. I think one general thought I have in my mind is we have to make it easier for our guys to do the right thing and harder for them to do the wrong thing. Okay. Now, on the easier to do the right thing, I mean, there's certainly a lot of tools that we can give them, even without spending any money. Information. Okay. I was in Cebu on Monday. Okay. Prior to last month, somebody in Cebu assessing a particular commodity would have no idea or no way of getting information about how somebody in Manila is assessing that commodity. Okay. They didn't know each other, they didn't talk. Okay. They would have to go, if they wanted to make a formal inquiry, they'd have to go through several layers of bureaucracy, and eventually they'd get there. Okay. But then they'd get the information 2 or 3 weeks later. What use is it to you when you've got a valuation question today?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So we put all that information online. Okay. That's the information that I was talking about earlier. We put it online for the public to use. Okay. I was glad to hear that our own guys are using it. Okay. Stuff like that. There's a lot more of that we can be doing. I mean, we kind of did a big data dump. Now we're working on organizing the data much more systematically to make it more user-friendly. Now, Sad fact, okay, only half of the people in our Manila office have reliable internet access. Okay, so we talk about all of this stuff, we talk about IT, but that's
it
not
can't
really,
work without.
that's right, that's right.
Right.
So we're working on getting everybody who needs it, their own computer terminal and a reliable internet connection. But, basic stuff like
Yes.
that, which one would have thought, which I would have thought one could take for granted in an office like ours. Actually, you can't take for granted. So even that kind of stuff we need to build.
So it seems like the problems stepping in are even, just bigger and it ranges, it seems.
Well, put it this way, okay, I discover new problems every day, and I probably will continue to discover new problems every day. Important thing is to keep moving forward and to move forward as quickly and as efficiently as we can,
Okay.
and to cut problems up into manageable parts.
Okay.
I think that we're doing.
I'm curious to know, former Commissioner Biazon also mentioned politician backers. Have you seen this so far in the 7 weeks that you've been
Well, nobody's called me. That was something I was told I should be ready for, but
Okay.
to be very fair, nobody's called.
Wow, does that surprise you?
Put it this way,
Maybe
makes
they're
my life
just
a bit
feeling,
easier. Makes my life a bit easier. It allows me to focus on my work.
Okay. Obviously, everyone is talking about the big issue, David Tan and rice smuggling.
Yes.
Tell us about, this is you're 7 weeks in, this thing erupts.
Yep.
Tell us about what the Bureau is working on.
Let me say something very clearly. I think the Davidson Bangayans of the world would have been or were a big problem from the point of view of smuggling maybe about a year ago to about 6 months ago, or maybe to until about 3 months ago. But I really think the game's changed, okay? Because if we were talking, let's say, late 2012, first half of 2013, we were really talking about people using, Davidson Bangayan did not deny financing farmers' cooperatives,
Yes.
okay? Who would then get import permits from the NFA and bring rice in. What we've seen since October is that the very necessity to get an import permit in the first place is being legally challenged.
Okay.
It's our position, the Bureau of Customs, is the Philippine government's position that no import permit, you bring rice in, that's smuggling. Okay, and since between October and December, okay, the Bureau of Customs has actually held. Okay, I won't use the word seized because seized has a specific legal meaning in customs law, but held, but not allowed the release of about 20% of all privately imported rice in 2013 for lack of import permits.
Okay. How many? Sorry, could you repeat that?
It's roughly 60,000. Sorry, I'll just get the exact number later. So
but it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's about it's about 2,500 containers.
Okay.
And when I did the numbers, it's really about between 20 and 22% of all privately imported rice in 2013.
Wow.
Okay, that is what we have not allowed to be released since October.
Okay.
However, since then, since I think actually we got the first injunction the first day, my first day in the job, the importers who brought these in have been quite successful at getting court orders issued to the Bureau of Customs to release that rice.
Okay.
So now, in another hearing, I think it was, I forget now if it was in the Senate or the House, but a gentleman who represents farming interests said, look, we can talk about Davidson Bangayan all we want, but the fact is courts in Manila, in Batangas, in Davao, 2 courts in Manila, which is called our 5th injunction today, are thwarting our efforts to hold that rice. So from the point of view of preventing rice smuggling going forward, I see that as a bigger issue than the kind of stuff that the Davidson Bangayans of the world are accused of having done in the past. Because if this trend continues, then what Davidson Bangayan and farmers cooperatives supposedly did in the past isn't going to be smuggling, it's going to be perfectly legal. Okay? And what kind of impact's that going to have on our farmers?
Yes.
Every opportunity I have, I really try and shift the discussion towards what the courts are doing and
Okay.
the impact that that's having on our efforts to hold that rice. Because I think that's right now, okay, that's our problem as far as rice, rice importation is concerned.
Actually, you did mention that in the Senate, you said
Yes.
the BOC was bound by laws.
Yes.
That make it difficult
Every Filipino is bound by laws.
to run. I meant to run after smugglers.
Yes.
What specific amendments would you recommend to these laws that would make your agency more effective?
There's quite a few of them. There's a long laundry list. No? But most of them, like I said earlier, most of them are lots of little boring things
Okay.
rather than a big overarching theme. Now, there are in several of the bills that I've seen proposals to make the penalties for smuggling significantly heavier
Okay.
than they are today.
Okay. What's heavier for you? What's heavy enough?
I don't know, but clearly it's not enough of a deterrent today.
Yes, it is,
Okay,
correct.
I would argue. I mean, my caveat to that though is, we've got plenty of laws that specify large penalties already. But again, if courts behave a certain way, no matter how good the laws are, we're gonna have problems. I mean,
Okay.
I think the fact that smuggling continues to take place on such a large scale, to me, demonstrates that the laws are not particularly effective.
Okay.
I don't know if the solution is to make the law stricter
Okay.
or to improve the quality of the government's prosecution, or whether there's something happening in the court system.
Okay. Just we have some questions online, so let's take them. One is from @Raymond and Hill. He says, "How do you think the FOI bill can strengthen the reforms in
The FOI
customs?"
bill.
Yes.
Okay. I think my mentality is FOI bill or no FOI bill. I want us to become a lot more transparent.
Okay.
The only constraint on our on the kind of information that we're able to disclose to the public today is actually our own internal ability to organize it properly.
Okay.
Now, we would certainly welcome fairly specific requirements enshrined in law for what data, what information the public should have access to at the
Okay.
Bureau of Customs. Okay. Now, apart from the FOI bill, actually within there are bills, which are proposing that we build an internal audit division, that we disclose a lot more information publicly. We fully support the requirement to disclose more information publicly. Actually, what we want is for the public to tell us, what more do you want to see now? Because FOI bill or not, amendments to the Tariff and Customs Code or not, we are very open to giving out more information. I mean, whether or not it's legally required, and we would welcome it being legally required. That way, we know that in the future, when we're not around anymore, that the public will continue to have access to this kind of information.
Great. We have another question from Ulysses de la Vega. Do you think the image of the Bureau can change within your term?
Let me say very clearly that my goal, changing the image of the Bureau is not my goal. Making the Bureau work better, perform our mandate better is my goal. If we do that, I think the image will change.
Naturally change.
But I think that it's important to, let's go after the substance rather than the image. No? Because we can do all the image boosting that we want, but if the substance isn't changing, that's not going to be long lasting.
Have you been looking at any models, perhaps the DPWH, for instance, that has been lauded for uprooting corruption?
Yes.
Anything that you've learned from there?
To be honest, okay, we're kind of a different animal.
It's very different, right?
Okay?
Correct.
The way, let me tell you a little anecdote that someone told me, okay? At the BIR, for instance, okay, guys, taxpayers, most normal taxpayers have to deal with the BIR once a year. I mean, individuals, okay? Then corporates have to deal with it maybe 4 times a year. Okay?
But with customs.
Customs is every single day.
Right.
And you've got, maybe we're, I don't know if we're unique, but we're certainly unusual in the sense that you've got individuals, no? who are making, let's say, 30, 35,000 pesos a month, and who are in their jobs probably offered that kind of money several times a day. So, I mean, we really, in that sense, I think we're unusual, or maybe even unique.
Okay.
And so maybe our solutions are going to have to be homegrown.
A little bit more unique as well.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of specific solutions,
Yep.
one thing we're also interested about is the smuggling hotspots. Davao, Cebu, Legazpi, Subic, Clark. What are we doing? How do you clean this up?
Well, for starters, we have new collectors in a lot of places. Okay, we've had a new collector in Cebu for the last several months. He's been doing, I think, a very good job.
Okay.
We have a new collector who's going to be taking over in Davao in a matter of days. Okay, so most of the collectors in the hotspots are new. Okay. Now. When I mentioned earlier that we need to improve our IT, we have transactions which are not electronically lodged and all of that. Quite a few of that happens in those hotspots. Okay, so I certainly want to do some number crunching to see, to point us in the right direction of what we should be paying attention to there. But the collectors in those hotspots have their marching orders. Okay, those who've been there for a while being defined really as a couple of months.
Right.
7
weeks.
We're particularly Cebu. We're quite happy with the way things are turning out.
Okay.
Davao is going to be a particular challenge.
Okay, like we know you're relatively new. It's only been 7 weeks. As these collectors they're new as well. Do you think it's impossible to have a no-take policy? You mentioned, being offered every day. It's an everyday temptation.
Look, is it impossible to have a no-take policy? Absolutely not. Okay, I mean, we have a no-take policy. Okay, now whether every single individual is going to to follow it, that is not beyond. I mean, that is obviously beyond my control.
Right.
Okay, but as a policy, as a question of do we tolerate this? Do we condone this? Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, and now it's easy to say that. Okay, and catching everybody is and then making everybody change is a different issue altogether.
Exactly.
But that's why again I go back to we give our people the resources to do the right thing, make it easier for them to do the right thing. We need to make it more costly for them to do the wrong thing.
Okay.
And then one reason why I talk about IT so much is because with like I said, 100,000 transactions a month. Okay, we need data, and we need to analyze it to tell us whether something's going wrong here. Okay, and point us in the direction of where that is, because otherwise, you don't even know.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I mean, lots of stuff goes on under our noses, but we can't be everywhere. All at the same time. Another thing, a little known fact, okay, and I wish one of these days I'll take a group of people around on a tour of our office. The physical layout of the offices of many of the offices in the Bureau of Customs is the most bizarre that I have ever seen.
Really?
Because you have corridors which lead into rooms which have side corridors and attics. Okay,
it's like a maze.
It's a maze. And put it this way: physically, there's lots of places to hide. Okay, lots of dark rooms. Okay, so makes
little things, yeah.
I mean, there's lots of little things like that.
Yes. Seemingly little, but obviously put together, it becomes a big problem.
We have when I go into a fairly new part of the office, which actually is designed like a normal office, I go, wow. Hey, this is normal. Okay, it's all the rest of the stuff which just looks so strange.
Okay. There's also one story that we wrote earlier, and there's a lot of interest in it. The knowledge that Friday in the Bureau of Customs is collection day.
Well, I hear it's distribution day rather than collection day. But,
distribution day. Either way, it's extra money.
Yes.
How are you dealing with this? I mean, on Fridays, is there extra?
Well, put it this way. Okay. I think I think people are smart enough to tone things down. Okay, but I'm under no illusions that we've put an end to it. Okay, in fact, we get reports every single day. Okay, but like I said, rather than try and catch every single person, and I mean we do catch people from time to time. Okay, but then that's just going to move the actual physical transfer of money from one place to another. Right. Okay. I'll sound like a broken record here, but we need to put systems in place. We need to use IT. We need to put reforms in place. Okay, because I have no intention of being a full-time police person. Okay, and I don't think that's an efficient way to run customs.
Okay. We'll wrap up soon, but I think what was interesting when you were first announced as the replacement was your banking background. It was a little bit different. How are you adjusting to the culture in the office? Clearly, just
I'll tell you the
talking
truth,
to you.
I don't even have the time to think about things like that. I mean, I'm there, I do the work that I need to do. It just piles up more and more stuff every day.
And clearly, I mean, it's obvious that you have been surprised about even little things like small rooms and...
No, every day there's something new, but we just have to keep sort of plugging away at it. And our report card, if you will, is our collections.
Okay. That said, what do you think you do bring in from this banking background that makes you unique and may make you more effective?
I don't know if it makes me unique, but I bring, I suppose, an intolerance for BS.
Okay, an intolerance for BS.
Yeah, a desire to get things done, and a frankness which I think surprises people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want people to know about the Bureau of Customs? I mean, again, there's a very negative image.
I think people know a lot about the Bureau of Customs, but I remember one of the things I was told on day 2. Was wag mo naman lahatin lahat ng tao, hindi naman sila lahat masama, no? And that is true.
Great reminder,
okay,
yeah.
let me give you an example. Okay, there are several hundred, maybe even they even reach the thousands, no? Customs employees who work at the airport, for instance, on holidays and don't get paid for it. Okay, there are quite a few customs employees who work overtime beyond 40 hours a week. They don't get paid for that. Okay, and I salute those people. I mean, we have a very demanding clientele. Okay, and we have a very negative image. But I think I would urge the public to recognize that there are good people there. There are hardworking people there. Okay, yes, we have bad eggs. I'm at this point not willing to even guess what percentage. Okay, but we're trying our best. After all, that's the best we can do is our best. Right. Okay, we are. Myself, my team are definitely working very hard at it. We know there is absolutely no way we are going to satisfy everybody.
Okay.
And we're not an agency that was built to be popular. Okay. But we certainly are open to feedback. We're open to criticism. Well, we get criticized whether we're open to it or not anyway. Okay. So the last thing I'll say is that I think probably more than 90% of the individuals who deal with customs have a negative image of it, mainly because of 2 perennial issues: balikbayan boxes and parcels. Okay. That's what the ordinary citizen usually has to deal with. The individuals, not the businesses, have to deal with customs for. And we're going to do our best to improve that experience for our balikbayans, for our OFWs, and we're going to ask for their support when we propose changes to legislation, which will hopefully help us become more consumer friendly.
That's great. A negative image, but you seem absolutely optimistic, which is great. Do you have a timeline for yourself? At a certain point, are you going to say, wow, this is just so big and I've done everything I could?
I've never planned my career.
Okay.
I've just always kind of taken things as they come.
And now you're here.
And now I'm here. But I think that definitely if we're not getting results within a certain time frame, and I believe that somebody else can do a better job than me, then that's going to be time to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
thank you very much. We learned so much. I mean, everything from obviously what the Bureau is doing, as well as smaller things like secret rooms. And please do invite us when you do that tour.
Okay, I will.
We've been speaking with Commissioner Sunny Sevilla on how he intends to address the controversy surrounding the Bureau of Customs, including the issue on rice smuggling. I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Thank you for watching. But it was very interesting.
We're done.